Jackie made the biggest blunder in show business history. He decided to enter it. That's a joke. Of course, it's funny. No, Jackie's biggest blunder was when he leaves.
So the big question then remains, would you go back to the show if you were offered it today?
Yes? Are you a new applicant?
Actually, I quit and I came to get my job back.
Through there.
So, come crawling back, eh?
Seems like the classy thing to do would be not to call attention to it. Thanks for giving me my old job back.
I'm afraid it's not that simple. As punishment for your desertion, it's company policy to give you the plague.
Sir, that's the plaque.
Ah, yes, the special demotivational plaque to break what's left of your spirit. Because, you see, you're here forever. Don't forget, you're here forever.
Oh.
Welcome. We're back for another episode with Shuli, and we have not done one in a while, and admittedly that's going to be on my end, but we're getting back into the series. We are continuing with Eric the actor. We're waiting for Jan. Jan is going through some family issues that we both agreed that we'll wait for Jan to continue because it's the right thing to do. We're at the spot in that series where we need Jan to really give his input. So, last we've spoke on air here is probably about 4 or 5 months ago. What have you been doing since?
Cursing you, wondering why the fuck you think you're too good to do this stuff. And you know what? You're not. You're back. I knew you would be.
It's true. I get email to my work email asking me to where am I and also a lot of negative things too. But
those are just from Eric.
Exactly. And one thing that High Pitch has trained me to do is to not overreact to words. And today we're going to go into a show that Paulie D from Jersey Shore's Cousin did with Stuttering John. Good guy. He gets a lot of information. And he's actually really, really intelligent. So that's the cool thing. So don't be fooled by his Guido looks. He is super smart.
It's a facade. It's a facade. He puts up a front where you don't see it coming.
Yeah, and I love his humor too because a lot of times he'll do what I do, dry humor where you act dumb. In reality, he's being super smart. John did an interview with this guy. I loved it. I loved the interview. I loved John on it. I think John did pretty well. It was a 2-day interview. Did you happen to see a little bit of it?
I saw a little part of it. I mean, 2 days, that's a lot of beer.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to play some bits from both of the days. It sounds like he flew John out to wherever he is. He's got a great studio, Paulie D, and it looks great. And again, the interview was great too. So first, though, I did get some tweets. I'm not on Twitter, but people screenshot them to me. And let's see the first one. Vince, you greasy wob dago fat douche. You preach the importance of consistency for growing a YouTube channel. Then you do 4 shows and leave. Either help Shuli or die. So this person, she actually sent a few tweets, but it's true. There's no way to grow a YouTube channel if you're not going to be consistent. And this isn't my channel, but I always said that I would help you. But I agree, Disney Muff Diver Mom, that
it's my wife. It's her Twitter account. But
oh, it is?
She's right. No. You think my wife's Disney Muff Diver?
I don't know. What is
anymore.
It? Is she on Twitter?
My wife? No. That's why she's my wife.
The other tweet that I got, I think it's from the same person, addressed to you.
Go ahead.
Shuli, you have 2 options as I see it. Number 1, beg for your old job back, or 2, pull a Costanza and simply show up to Sirius when that big-nosed Jew boss of yours actually returns to the studio? She does bring up a good point. Is there any possibility that you will go back to the show?
No, not on my end. I'm not looking to go back. If they want to reach out and have a discussion about some stuff, we'll talk. I didn't leave on bad terms. I got no beef with them. I just left because I wanted to be able to do both, kind of plan something for my future when he does retire, while still working for the show. They didn't see that was something they wanted to allow me to do. So that's why I left. It was never a money thing. It was never a personal thing. It was just like, hey man, got 5 years left. I'd love to start mapping out a roadmap to something after this and be able to do this and put in writing what you don't want me to say, and we'll be fine. And they decided not to work with me on that, management, so I decided to just go. And I love the people there. I love the show. I still talk to a lot of people there. A lot of them reached out, wished me a happy birthday this month. So I got no bad feelings with anybody there.
So what we spoke about earlier in another video was you actually were offered a part-time position with Sirius, correct?
Yes.
So what were the details of that?
It was basically half my salary that I was making. No benefits if I wanted to do my own podcast. Yes, benefits if I didn't do a podcast, and half my salary. So I just asked at that point, well, can we have something in writing? Because it was presented to me that, look, the last 15 years of you being here, you can't talk about anything. And that was a little too broad and vague, So all I said was, hey, can we put something specific, like do not disparage, or do not talk about meetings and behind the scenes stuff. That's all I was asking for. Just put in writing where I'm protected and you're protected, and then we can go from there. And their response was, we don't put stuff like that in writing. And so I found that hard to believe, with a $1 billion company that they are, that they don't put stuff like that in writing. And so I was just like, okay, that's fine.
Was there an option where you could do the podcast and say whatever you want? Or was the restriction on what you could say for both options?
Yeah, so at first it was, you can say whatever you want and you don't get the benefits because of it. And I was fine with that. And then they came back and they were like, well, you can't. And so I was like, look, you already took away my benefits. You cut my pay in half. Like, what? I'm not looking to do a show to shit on the guy. I just want to start doing my own thing. And so again, it was another roadblock. And at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of these roadblocks, and I'm just gonna bet on me and do my thing.
Who's that in the background? I could see the silhouette. It's nice.
It's my wife. She brought me my Halloween costume.
Do you dress up for Halloween?
I do. The whole family dresses up.
Oh, God.
It's our tradition.
The issue that we're talking about now is whether you would go back or could go back. Obviously, you're not the first to leave the show. Right. You're one of the few that left on good terms, at least initially. I don't know what you've been doing the past 5 months. I doubt you've been trashing Howard for whatever reason. So, or suing Howard or anything that's negative to Howard. But in this interview that Paulie D did with Stuttering John,
yes,
he poses the question, John, would you go back to the show? And John said yes. And despite any animosity in the past, John said yes. And I would love that to actually happen, because I'm a Stuttering John fan. And just being a fan of the show, I think John would add something to the show, especially when it's not live or done. But John makes another good point that Howard wouldn't allow it.
Well, I mean, he's not necessarily wrong. And first off, let me just start by saying I am a Stuttering John fan as well. The old days with John was some of my favorite stuff. John had this infectious laugh that when he would start getting going on the air and start laughing, whether it was at Gary or whatever, as a listener, it would make me laugh as well. So I always was a fan of John. Not the bitter years, but the show years, absolutely. He delivered great content to the show, did great man on the street stuff, was a great part of the show. That being said, it's a completely different show than when he was there. And the days of guys like Stuttering John on that show, I think, are gone. I think, one of the great things about John back in the day, if you remember, was he would come into the studio with something. Wasn't something that was on Howard's list or on Gary's radar or what. It was an observation. It was something that John had, and it was organic. And that is a huge part of the show that's gone. And that is why it was a big reason why it stopped being fun for me. I got to a point where I could walk up to Gary and go, "Hey, I got something on Eric." And he goes, "Go." He didn't say, "Well, what is it? Give me some sample lines." And those are the hoops you're going to jump through now. So for me, it's like John would be great back there now. But there's no way in hell a John can fit into that arrangement that they got over there now.
So, relating to that, we saw that Ronnie sold his house and moved to Vegas, and Gary sold his house and it moved somewhere up north. I don't know, Vermont or somewhere. Does that indicate that both of them are not coming back to the show for good?
I would say so. I mean, and listen, I said months and months ago when we started talking, you and I, my personal feeling was that Howard was never going to go back to that studio. And, it's tough to ask people to go into a situation that you're not comfortable going into, right? You're saying, I don't trust this. I don't want to risk it, but I'm going to send X amount of people to risk their lives. Like, I just think, look, the setup works for him. And if he's happy, then everybody else, we're going to figure it out, And that was my whole thing during the pandemic was I knew we were going to be working from home for some time. So does it matter where home is? And management said, absolutely not. Because this is the way we're going to be doing it for a while. So great. That's when we started looking for places. Where are you? Let me see you. Let me see your costume. Lee, come here. Wow, you look beautiful.
Now, is that your daughter or just some random kid?
It's just some kid. We just have kids running around here from time to time. Are you my daughter or just some kid? All right, get out of here. Daddy's got to trash some
Beat
people.
it, punk.
I love you. You look beautiful. So, yeah.
So let's get into this show, and it relates to sort of what you're saying in the sense that I believe that you should be in person when you're interviewing someone. I don't like what we're doing here. I don't like interviewing.
I've never liked it.
Yeah, I don't like. There are opportunities. This is maybe 10, 15 years ago where you could depose someone and also get live testimony at a trial via Skype, and sometimes you see it's horrible. Just from a practical and a human standpoint of effectively communicating something, when the person's not there, you lose so much.
Oh, by the way, houses. When we were looking for houses, can't tell you how many people were buying houses online, virtually, during the pandemic. It was unbelievable. And I just want to say one last thing to everything we just discussed, which I find is the irony in all of this, is there are probably some people from the show that are going to watch this that are not going to be happy about the stuff I said. But the irony is if they just could have put something in writing for me as to what I can and can't say, maybe none of that stuff would have ever been discussed, right? So it's it's their fault. I guess is what I'm trying to
Well,
say.
not necessarily, right? You entering into a contract or not, but it's also
Right.
a verbal agreement that you have with them. Now, if you came to me as your attorney and you asked me, well, should I get it in writing? I would probably say if they're not going to do it, they have the leverage. Who cares? You got to take the chance and get paid half the salary. The benefits aren't, as you can see, you can get those on your own. But to have that safety net of a salary and taking the risk of not knowing what you can't say, I think would be worth it. Now, I don't think Howard would go for that deal anyway.
No, they would have turned that deal down for sure. And at the end of the day, to quote Delabate sayings, I was already jumping through so many hoops over there. Everybody is, okay. It's not the place that it once was. And after 15 years of, I would say 10 of those years were the greatest ever. And then to have these, last 5, even though my role was growing, the pandemic just changed everything. It just changed the whole dynamic. It changed the whole vibe and structure and the way things operated. And it wasn't in my wheelhouse anymore. I wasn't as good. If I'm critiquing myself, I'm not as a valuable of a team of a player in this team in this format. I just wasn't, and it wasn't enjoyable for me, and it wasn't fun, and and it was stuff was discussed repetitively over and over again. That shit that I was trying to keep my head and mind out of all this fucking gloom and doom. And it was like, I just had enough. I couldn't take it anymore.
So the hoops that you referenced, what specifically was it that Gary was blocking you from going in, or is there something
Not
else
at
that we're
all.
missing? So what hoops are you referring to that in the past 5 years have been?
Like I said earlier, like in the past, when we're in the studio, I built up this chemistry, this trust, this rapport, whatever you want to call it, with Gary and with Howard, to the point where if it's something that I know about, whether it's a whack pack or a back office thing, and I have information on it, in the past, you go to Gary and you go, hey, I have something on Richard. You go, what do you got? You go, well, he did this that day. He goes, okay, you know this for sure. And he'd sit there and he'd talk and he'd vet it out and he'd do what a producer does. And he'd say, okay, go to the mic and say that, and just get right into that. Now it went to a point where I was like, Gary, I got something on there. And he'd go, go. And I would go in, and Howard didn't know what I was going to bring up. Gary didn't even know what I was going to bring up. And it was organic, and it led to something. And it was something. And I had 2 or 3 other things that I knew I could go to when he got tired of the first thing that we were talking about, right? So in my head, I'm doing all this like mapping out, kind of like what you do on stage as a comic. I'm going to go from this bit to that bit. And now, Jeff the Drunk's on the phone. I got the Jeff puppet. I write on the instant message, hey, Jeff the Drunk puppet, ready to go. Somebody writes me back, you have some sample lines. And I'm like, there's a window this big when a Jeff the Drunk calls in. Maybe this big. A window of time that you can get in and what I felt help the phone call. Not help Howard, help Jeff. Help create something that was funny from this, because Jeff's bringing nothing to the table. So now I'm sitting here writing sample lines for a bit that I've been doing for 15 years. Like, I'm not a new guy here on staff. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this. Let's fucking go. Get me in there with the puppet and let's go.
What do you mean by sample lines?
Like what are you going to say when you go on as the puppet? So now I got to sit there and write out the puppet lines. And it's just like, and by the time I write 2-3 lines, he's hung up on Jeff. Bit's gone. my opportunity to contribute and get airtime is gone, and it's frustrating. It's for me to work as hard as I did to get to the point where everybody there trusted me to come in with quality shit, to now be like, what would you say if you? It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah,
Have
and
some fucking faith.
I get that aspect of the comedic process, and that's definitely going to hinder you from doing any type of effective job on the spot and making up the lines as you're going, which is a skill that you developed over time. It's not easy to do.
No.
So when we train people to do things like that, you not only have to be able to imitate the voice, which you were good at, but also come up with the lines that are coming out in a coherent sentence. If Gary's going to then make you write the lines out first, and you're not even sure what Jeff is going to say technically, or what Howard's going to ask him, then I don't see how you could do that. Now, the conservative attorney aspect of me would say, well, dude, you made it this far. Write it out for as long as you can, including, and I've given this advice, and I can't say to who, or even if it's your show, to almost 3 people. Write it out until they fire you. And sometimes they actually do. So, but at least, maybe 2 or 3 years later, because I always look at the next best option, and I never gave you that advice, but that would have been my advice to you. So basically, I don't agree with your decision to at least have walked away from a potential deal. But I don't believe that Howard would have offered you a deal where you could do your own show and still he's going to be paying you.
Yeah, and there were people in my life that said what you said, that their advice was to just hang through it and deal with it. But the truth of the matter is, I had been dealing with it for a while, and it wasn't going to get any better. It was only going to get worse. This group of people, the Whack Pack that I worked with for a decade on my own, with no one helping me, delivering quality content for over 10 years on this Whack Pack to the show, now is all divvied up to a team of other writers, that I no longer, am to keep in contact with certain Whack Packers. That's somebody else's Whack Packer now. Was I ever brought in to discuss? Was I ever considered to head up the goddamn group, considering I'd been working with them for 10 years by myself? Nope. Decision was made. Management made the decision. So there was all this other shit in play, as well as the airtime changing for me. I can't explain it, dude. I work better going in there without something super prepared and being able to riff and come up with shit on the fly. And I've proven it throughout the years. And so for me to be like, now just like everything, I got to script every movement out, and God forbid I go off script, people are going to fucking freak out. So for me, it was like, fuck it, man. I can't write out something where I'm miserable. Right. And I'm not saying he made me miserable or any of that. I wouldn't be in the position to do what I'm doing right now and to make a living if it wasn't for this guy. I wouldn't have had this little kid running up on me if it wasn't for this guy, bringing me over there and me being able to meet my wife. But at the same time, man, we all work fucking jobs that we just don't enjoy anymore. And the day I got hired there, the day Tim Sabian gave me my contract and I signed it with Sirius, in my mind, I said, the day this place feels like a job, I'm gone. I'm out. And I'll figure something else out. Because if I could turn a 1-week audition into 15 years on the greatest radio show of all time, I can figure something out. I'll land on my feet. So
let's get Paulie D asks or gives some advice sort of relating to that to John. So let's get into the first clip of this show.
Jackie made the biggest blunder in show business history. He decided to enter it. That's a joke. No, of course, it's funny. No, Jackie's biggest blunder was when he leaves. You know, when he is being offered $800,000 a year for 5 years. Now, Tommy, I don't expect you to, be able to do the math, but
I'm actually pretty fucking good at math. Now, grammar, I'm terrible. Okay, I'm terrible. You could do a comedy special on my grammar and my typing. Every fucking word is spelled wrong. I don't spell check it because I don't give a fuck. So,
see, this is where I don't know why he's calling Tommy. Paulie is brilliant in the sense that he admits that he's not great at grammar, but he's going to show us at least he can do the math of how much Jackie left. Okay, so
Which,
just
by the way, can I just say for the record, if they offered me $800,000, I would have toughed it out for the next 5 years. Believe me, I would have figured out a way.
But math I'm pretty good at. Right. So I could do the math.
So we understand that Paulie's not great at grammar. At least is what he's projecting.
Right.
But he's good at math.
8 times 5 is 45. So if you're doing 800,000, that's 4.5.
Now, all of us that aren't that great at math, we hear a number, right? Okay. See, this is why I love this guy, because you think that he doesn't know the math, right? I believe that he's projecting that he does, but just trying to act like he doesn't.
Right.
8 times 5 is 40.
Fuck all you guys.
Yeah, I know.
I'm starting to question my sanity after being with you. I think I'm a fucking retard.
Well, I would say mentally challenged. You
Mentally
don't want to use
challenged.
a,
Oh, Jesus.
So
Yeah,
to
that's
give
right.
you a little bit of background as to what I gathered from this interview, which again, I love the guy, and we'll put a link to this video in yours if you don't mind promoting John a little bit.
John sounds like, remember when you used to slow down a record to the lower speed? Like he's Jackie made the biggest blunder in show business.
Now, in fairness to John, he has been drinking, so this is cut up. It's not
It's the Coors
in order.
Light. It's the Coors Light
Right.
talking.
I mean, there are times where he's got, it looked like 4, 5, 6 beers in the hour. But regardless, point with regarding to Tommy is that I didn't get your okay though. Are you willing to at least put a link so that you can promote this show?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure. We're using his material, absolutely.
And he's going to
That's the
give
least
some
we
good.
can do.
Right. Okay.
You can't say that. No, Dave.
Well, you worried about YouTube, about cursing. I would worry about
I'm
that.
not worried about cursing. Now you fucked up.
Do you know about that, Tom? Did you ever see me fight?
Yeah, you fought the guy. The guy was 262. You were like 175. You did 2 rounds, 2 or 5 minute intervals, and you beat the fuck out. Or unanimous decision.
So they're talking about the cabbie fight, obviously, unanimous decision. That now again, see, you're thinking that he doesn't know how to pronounce that word or doesn't know it, but that's the beauty of why I love that dry humor. So
he's doing a rope-a-dope.
Exactly.
Kind of, right?
Exactly.
I got you. Okay.
The Trump
He's
top.
great.
And just to give you more background, he's playing as if he's not into John or worship the Stern Show, but he plays as if he's cool. Like celebrities are cool with him. He's around celebrities all the time. So that's the act you're going to see throughout this as well.
Right.
Taj Mahal.
A unanimous one, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's what it says.
When Suzanne and I, she was pregnant with our first child.
You got 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
How many girls?
I have 2 boys and a girl.
Ruh-roh. Now, there's a debate in this as to are kids off limits. Now, when we say kids, John's kids are older. They're adults, over 18. Do people get offended when you say something bad about their kids? Yes. But I will advise this, not to ever be offended by words, even if there are of your kids. Because if someone really is trying to attack you, one of the best ways that they can accomplish what they're doing is to get you to react. So, now, I may say that your daughter's ugly. You would be mad, even if I'm just joking about it or not, right? You would get mad, but don't let me know it. That's my advice to people, if you can do it. Now, personally that I've had my son, my wife, my baby daughter all attacked on air. You never heard me.
I'm gonna stab all of them, Vinny. You fuck.
You never heard me get offended, call the cops, or do it. And of course, it is different when it's high pitch Eric compared to whomever else. But I will give this advice to Tommy or whoever, John. Yourself. Ignore it, and don't let the person who's saying it know it bothers you.
But that's
I'm just asking because I know you're a pig, so I would have guessed you got all. Every one of my friends, and you know some of my friends we all have girls.
You and I, I think we could see on the same level on a lot of things. When you hear that, kill your kid, who, I was looking forward to have this kid.
So can we get that out of the way too? John is known for repeating stories, and he looks for sympathy from people by telling them that Howard Stern's such an asshole, he told me to abort my baby. Now, this was done on air as a fucking joke. And, I mean, whether there was any truth to John potentially being a good or bad parent at the time, if you just based it upon what he was doing in his life, maybe, there's some validity to every joke, and maybe there was, but it was a joke, John. You got to get over crying about Howard saying that, but he repeats it on and on in almost every show, really to get some leverage against Howard.
That's where he was victimized. That was one of that was one of the attacks on him. But here's the reality of parenthood. As a father of two, you're a dad. Everybody, listen. There's not one parent who, for at least 30 seconds every month, looks at their kid and goes, "What if?" Right? What if we would have just taken Life's Eraser out and rubbed you off the page? Think of where me and your mom would be right now. Think of the fucking chandelier fucking we'd be doing right now.
With other people, obviously. We wouldn't be married, as my wife and I would say.
That's true. Think of all the crazy stripper ass I'd be getting right now after leaving your mom, after we erased you. So, I mean, look, Howard gave me shit for taking paternity leave, right? Meanwhile, a couple weeks ago, or whatchamacallit, he was praising a politician for taking paternity leave. He was not goofing on him, goofed on Richard for it too. You don't see us fucking walking around wounded from it. Like, at the end of the day, it's a bit for the show. If he's doing it on air, it's a bit for the show.
Yeah, but you shouldn't
Even when he's mad. If he's really mad, it's not going to be on the air. It will not be a bit. Sure, he's pissed when he's yelling at Scott in the old days, or Ronnie, or shit. I remember the Langford prank with Ronnie and Scott when they pranked Langford to go into the studio. And Howard was pissed. But he wasn't pissed enough to go to break and fucking really chew people out. The guy's a genius. He knows a great bit when he sees it, when he stumbles onto one. So
yeah, especially lame guys taking paternity leave. Let your wives handle the child rearing. You go to work.
I was working. I was watching
And he's telling me I'm not fit to be a father. Tommy, it took every fucking cell in my body to not get up and fucking throw it right across to his fuck.
I did forget to mention, too, that the bravado going on with Paulie, or Tommy, is the Italian tough guy mentality. Sure. But, again, I think that it's shtick. So both of them are kind of playing off that. All the talk, what I would have done, should have done, what did John actually do?
You can always tell how crazy an Italian is by how much cologne they're wearing. That is one thing I've learned. And, I remember Chuck Zito came in to the studio one time, and I just go, "You smell great." I go, "What are you wearing?" And he goes, "I mixed 2 or 3 colognes together." And I go, "This guy will kill anyone."
An ugly fucking pelican face.
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. And I'll tell you, I don't like that. I don't like what he said to you about that abortion thing. I would have fucking clocked him. I don't give a fuck who he is.
Oh, believe me.
That's my motherfucking kid. It's fine you want to break my balls. You don't want to play my jokes. You want to pay me shit. And I love Howard, right? So I don't want, he'll never watch my shit because he's too good for my shit, I guess. But one day maybe he won't be, but that ain't right. That's not right. That's your fucking kid.
Yeah.
Now, somebody brings up my daughter, I don't give a fuck who you are. I'll go back and do 10. It don't bother me.
Yeah.
Because I'll sit there and do 10 years knowing that I did it for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I got no problem with it.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right.
This is idiot talk 101. All right, you're gonna do that for your and not provide for her for the next 10 years because you're such a good dad. You went to jail for 10 years. Not to mention, I love that Tommy, no matter if he's angry or happy or sad, he always has that surprised look on his face and his forehead. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to make a false claim that I think he said he uses Botox. I don't know where. Botox.
Or an iron.
Something.
You know.
Yeah. But again.
It's working. He looks great.
So for 10 years, let's think, someone tells you to abort your unborn child on a comedy show on air. This isn't even in private. And he's willing to do something that's going to get him 10. I mean, that's probably manslaughter. So basically, kill Howard. That's his advice to John. And they're both agreeing to do this. So whether that advice is good or not, because someone said something bad about your unborn child. All right. I'm just giving you a background as to who this person is.
All right. I love the lawyer in you. You're still not picking a side. You don't know. You may have to represent one of these guys at some point.
John goes into his advice to Jackie when Jackie's telling him he's going to leave.
Wants to leave. Okay, good.
You'll be set for life. What's wrong with you? Don't leave. I go, I'm telling you, you're going to regret this if you leave. Jackie left. Now he's fucking busting his ass at 72 years old at these shithole places trying to pay the bills. See, this is the thing. At least I left for something bigger. You don't leave a show without another job. That's the first time that's the first rule of business.
Period. It doesn't matter what job it is.
Don't leave another job before you have. Don't leave a job before you have another job.
I mean, that's pretty stupid, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're working at fucking McDonald's, right? You don't leave fucking McDonald's until you have the bigger job at Wendy's.
Yeah. But that's what Jackie did.
So now I heard you maybe making fun of Tommy, but he does give advice that you hear a lot. Leave a job only when you have another one. Does any of Tommy's advice, which John is concurring with, ring true to you now, 5-6 months out?
I mean, look, it rings true no matter the timeline. But you also have to take into account how you get to certain places, right? When I got the opportunity to come and work over in New York, to come out for a 1-week audition, okay? I was living in my parents' house in Vegas. I was running 4 open mic comedy shows in town. I was working as a comic, making maybe $150 a week doing comedy. And that was 4 nights, 5 nights out of the week doing stand-up, right? Some weekend gigs here and there. Hustling, grinding. I get this call, come out to New York. They don't want to tell me what it's for. Come out. I come out there. I hit the ground running. I don't just consult, which is what I was brought out there for. I sneak a recorder out. I interview people on the street. I learn how to edit. I learn how to do this, that, the other thing, because now I'm here and I don't want to go back. And I'm not planning to go back. And there's a fire that is lit under you when you have nothing to fall back on, that cannot be duplicated. It cannot be obtained any other way than to just do it. And for 15 years, we were steady. We never really had an issue. You know, finances weren't always great, but we were in a place where the road was great, job was paying well, we were comfortable. We were like, if we're in water, we're right here. Water's right under our mouth. That being said, I don't know that complacency helps either. You know, to go from McDonald's to Wendy's, you're not leaving one job for another. You're still doing the same job. You're still in the same shithole.
Yeah, I think Tommy was just dumbing it down for the audience, and not everyone's going to get certain analogies.
Right. Right. Like, I knew when I was leaving, I wasn't going to go apply at radio stations. I wasn't going to go try and get a radio gig because why would I? Where am I going to go from the Stern Show? You know, what's not to mention, you know, it was time to reignite that fire for me. Is it the smartest business decision? No. With a wife and kids? No. But that's added incentive that I didn't have when I was, 15 years ago when I came over there from Vegas. I didn't have a wife and kids, and I grinded my ass off to get where I got. So now I'm responsible for 3 other human beings. There's no off switch. Like, there's no stopping. I'm able to do things. I'm working on projects now that I would have never been able to do creatively, writing-wise, for my stand-up. I almost have an entirely new hour ready to go for a new special. Like, I'm killing it right now, and the momentum's only getting stronger, you know?
I would write the best bits for Howard. I would write the best joke, because I had my computer directly to him, so he would see my jokes, right? I would write the best joke. The whole fucking studio's laughing. Now, I think, just because, I think that you walk in there, in the studio, and Howard goes, great joke, John. Nada.
Never played it.
No, the joke was done. Howard did it. Everybody laughed. But Howard never says good job. Ever. Not to Jackie. Not to Fred. That's not Howard. Now, cut to Jay. I write a joke or a bit or a segment. Hey, good job, John. I got to tell you, man, you're doing a great job around
You
here.
do a good Jay Leno impersonation.
No, but I'm saying, Tommy, I'm just saying.
The difference.
That's a difference. That's a juxtaposition of 2 people. But
So John's claiming Howard never gives compliments, and I know some employees do need that, some don't. And there's no... When you have employees and you're a leader and you're in charge of certain people, some need it, some don't. And you have to know that. Part of being a leader is knowing when to do it, who to do it with. And same thing with kids as well. It's the same exact situation. So John claims that he never, ever, you heard him, ever got a compliment. Now, a few beers in, and Jay, of course, was complimentary to him. A few beers in, let's see what happens.
Howard never says good job. Ever. I never knew Sarah, she was underdog lady. I was the one to really... That's another time Howard, pulled me aside after the Chow 9 show. I did all my own questions to her, and he goes, John, such a great job with underdog lady. And that's where he gave me my first writing, opportunity. He goes, I want you to join me, Jackie, and Fred to write questions for the underdog lady for the Hollywood Squares thing that we did, which was my idea, by the way.
Crazy, the underdog.
Yeah. But Howard never says good job. Ever. And Howard came in again. He goes, John, fucking great interview with Daniel Carver. But nobody was giving me questions, Tommy. It was all me. And I was asking Daniel, so if you're drowning, you don't want to get fucking mouth-to-mouth from me because I'm Puerto Rican? I'm asking him all this stuff. And it was just brilliant. I'm not patting myself on the back, but it's just me being me. And it was nice because those 2 ones that they let me just go and do, Howard was very complimentary. He was like, which he almost says, well, he did compliment me, and those are the times that he did. Jeez. He actually complimented me and goes, John, great job with them.
Dude, he was funny, man.
But Howard never says good job. Ever.
So,
tell you what.
Look at Tommy, bro.
See how great Tommy is?
We got to get him on the show, dude.
Dude, look at what Tommy did. You know when you see these cross-examinations on TV, and John was adamant, right? Because when you say an absolute word like never, ever, and he ever get a compliment, Tommy got John to then admit to 2, 3, 4 different compliments, not only compliments, but increases in his job responsibility, moving up from an intern to a writer.
Listen, man, I've been in a lot of meetings, and it's not just writing. It's been meetings with, the tapes team, interns when they had them over at Sirius. The whole compound. Howard has always been, and he may not know every single person by name, but if you do something strong, he will know you. He will remember you, and he will thank you. And he has many times to a lot of people there. So, I'm sorry it didn't happen to John back in the day. And regardless of whether or not people need that pat on the back, I don't think it hurts any to just do. If you're a leader, if you're in a leadership position, to just let somebody know they did a good job. It could be something that goes a long way with that person. It could be something that they just internalize at that moment and go, oh, cool, thanks, man. And then they move on. But at least you get that out there, get that complimentary energy out there into another human being, could turn things around for them.
Yeah, and again, some people need it, some people don't. It may be even negative to some people that they...
I think everybody needs it. I think nobody... If you said to people, do you ever want to be complimented on your work? Nobody's going to go, no. I'm fine. They're psycho if that's the case. Everybody can use it. Don't say nobody needs it.
I don't like using extreme, absolute words. Sorry. So when you say everyone, you mean everyone, no matter what. As you see, Tommy,
the world, every soul, even
exactly.
A fetus, embryo, it's alive. Go.
And I'll tell you what, John. I respect you to the end of the world that you.
Let me set this up for you. Now you know how John left. I mean, it was
look at the
cool
bling Tommy's got, by the way. He's blinged out. It's a nice little watch he's got on, and a bracelet, and the chain.
And that's to give off the appearance that, hey, I'm this Guido Pauly D lookalike, but and that probably softened John up to actually then admit to certain things that normally he wouldn't have admitted to. But we're going to get into another part of whether you're interviewing or deposing someone. Be prepared. So Tommy is going to praise John and give him his Italian seal of approval. He's a man. You know why? Because he would not leave the show before he told Howard and he got Howard's blessing. Now, again, I'm saying Tommy... I'm saying Tommy...
If I'm wrong, that didn't happen that way, right?
The exact opposite happened. Now, there's nothing wrong with what John did, right? I'm not putting down John in terms of how he did it. He did it the way he should have. But yes, the exact opposite happened. Now, John did try to talk to him. Try as hard as you can. Right, but it is...
All right, and that's it. That was.
But he tried after he got the job, which is fine. But Tommy says he's a man because he would, even if he was offered $50 million from Jay Leno, he would not have taken that job unless he got Howard's blessing. And then when John tries to correct him, Tommy just ignores that.
And I'll tell you what, John, I respect you to the end of the world that you would not go to Leno, no matter what, until you talk to Howard. And that, to me,
No. I tried to talk to Howard.
I know, but
Howard said no.
But the fact of the matter is that you would not make any type of move until you spoke to Howard.
Till I tried.
Till you tried.
And Howard said, fuck you, I don't want to talk.
One and the same.
Yeah.
You would not make that move until you made that talk.
No.
And I'll tell you what, that's very respectable.
And I said no to the Tonight Show.
And my friends will all watch this.
Before I got the blessing from from Howard, but he would not talk to me.
But you wouldn't leave until you did talk to him. And to me, that's more respectable than any of the things you've ever done. You're a comedian, you're comedy, you're Jay Leno, you're Howard Stern. I could care less about it all. That sticks out to me, that you were a stand-up guy.
Tried my hardest, man. You know what I mean?
So to me, right, that's a man. A pussy goes and says, hey, Jay, can you call Howard for me and fucking tell him that that's a pussy.
Yeah.
A man walks up to the king of all media and say, look, I'm trying to talk to you as a man. I have an offer from Jay. Is there any way we can work out maybe both together? What's the solution?
Yeah, but he refused.
And I understand that. But that's a man to me. A pussy is that goes to Jay and says, okay, Jay, you call Howard and tell him. No. You be a man and you go as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then after you tell him if Jay wants to call, fine. But you tell him as a man.
Yeah.
And that I respect you for more than any of your celebrity bullshit. Who cares? That comes and goes. It's the person that you are. Because this comedy shit's going to end. You know what I mean? The podcast is going to end. But the respect that you gained from me, which I'm nothing, just those two things. And you have to understand how I am. I don't give a fuck about all this shit that you did. That's cool to have you on, to meet a guy that I listened to for a gazillion years, but I'm not a starstruck guy, as you can obviously tell, being with me for 2 days. But I respect where respect is due. And the way you went about going to Leno, as much as I love Howard, I have to knock him. Well, I want to go to it because when we had dinner last night, we were talking about Ronnie, the limo driver. I
love Ronnie.
So tell me a little bit about Ronnie, because you only hear bits and pieces, and he cracks me up.
Ronnie is...
I got two questions so you can answer both at the same time. Tell me about Ronnie, and then did Howard get in his ass when he went and did shows? Because Howard was promoting his shows.
First of all, Howard put the kibosh on Ronnie's shows.
What's that mean?
Howard stopped...
See the nuance that Paulie's using? I mean, John says he puts the kibosh on. He's like, what does kibosh mean? Right? Like, he's acting like he has no clue what that means. So, like, John's got to explain what kibosh means.
The other thing I love that Tommy does is basically tell John that everything he does in his life is worthless and garbage. The only thing that counts is that he told Howard he, as a man, went to Howard. Which he did not. He got caught by Scott with an audition tape, and Scott went to Howard. So if anyone's a man around here, it's Scott Salem, if I remember those chain of events correctly.
I don't think you have the timeline right. Scott only brought that tape in with Nicolas Cage after John made the announcement, because Scott was still clueless. Scott didn't know. He just thought it was a bit that John was taping. And although Scott is super diligent in his work and probably was thinking potentially this could be, all night. Like, Scott can't even go to sleep without thinking of work. I know the guy, and as do you. So, no, that wasn't the timeline. The timeline was John fought for this job. Okay, he did get the job. Then he tried to let Howard know after the fact. Howard was blatant. There's a video I just saw the other day. I'll put a link in that too. Howard did not want to deal with any of John's business. He said it very clear. Now, if you're of the opinion that John could have pulled him out or just somehow ambushed him with the information, yes. But that's the way the timeline went. But you're right. Tommy doesn't care about the fact that John was on Jay Leno or Howard Stern. He cares that John would not leave the show before getting Howard's blessing.
Yeah, you stand up, you're this, that, it's all shit. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Ronnie Munn block party.
Wow.
Howard stopped it because they became so popular and they're making money. And Howard doesn't like anybody making money.
Well, there's a point that John just said, right? But it's about you, technically. I mean, the Ronnie Munn block party, which started out as nothing, right? I mean, how many shows did you have to do where there's like 4 people in the audience if you're lucky?
Listen, if there was ever a show with 4 people, we wouldn't. It would have not gotten big. We would have stopped immediately. But the first 3, so we had 4 shows booked the first time we put this together, and there were 2 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Jersey, and then the last one was in Long Island. And the 2 PA and the Jersey one, those 3, I think total amount of people, if you put them all together, we had 70, maybe 80 people over 3 shows total. That's
well, do you know why you're a stand-up guy? Is because those first shows you only had 4 people at them, right? Like I said, 4 people, not 70. And that makes you a stand-up guy in my book. None of this other stuff. Being a dad, being on the show, working your way up. It's because you had 4 guys. Well, I mean, that was the thing. I don't think that Paulie was listening to what John was saying as to,
Right.
or was he prepared? But regardless, you're getting information out. John makes the point Howard does not want anyone else to make money. I don't believe that's the truth.
I don't agree with that either.
I mean, because technically Howard is paying you from his money, in theory, to work for him.
Well, that's not necessary. I mean, look, I got paid from Sirius. I didn't get paid from Howard.
Again, we went through the technicalities of it, but ultimately, either way, it's derived from Howard. Howard doesn't want you there. You're gone.
Correct. That is correct. And you know, having been involved in, so those 3 shows were just utter failures. The last one was in Long Island. I said to the guys, to Ronnie and Scott, this is the last one. We're not doing any more after this, because I felt so bad that these guys were doing a show with me and nobody was coming, that I didn't make hardly any money these 3 shows. I just paid them whatever we had. And so that 4th show in Long Island, somehow I think it came very close to selling out. It was packed. And then Sal and Phelan and a bunch of the Howard guys came down, and it was chaos. I mean, Sal ended up throwing up on the bar while I was closing out the show. Scott was DJing through his phone, and Howard TV was there covering it. So that Monday morning, we spent an hour on the block party on the air, playing videos, talking about the show, fighting with each other. By the time I got out of the studio, our promoter at the time, Sequoia, calls me up and he's like, dude, I'm getting calls from all over the country. They want the block party show. And so it was that fast that, he made that show popular. Now, that being said, at its height, we sold 1,200 seats at Harrah's in Atlantic City, sold out the theater there. They had Ronnie's face on the side of the hotel. And I think that's where it got weird for him, was he was like, my driver is becoming this guy who's now on the side of a building, and I don't like that. I don't think it had anything to do with money. I just think it was like, I just think he was just getting pissed that Ronnie was, well, not pissed. It just bothered him that Ronnie was getting big, I guess.
Was it Ronnie or the rest of you guys?
Love you. Bye, baby. I mean, look, it was Ronnie's picture on the side of the building, and we had Scott who backed out, and then JD came in, and that really elevated the show to another level. And it was a Ronnie loved it. JD loved it. Everybody that was a part of it had so much fun. It was a real bummer that it stopped. But that had, see, now, okay, so now that I'm thinking,
hold on one second. You still kiss your wife?
Hell yeah, dog.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because she's fucking gorgeous and I love her.
Yeah, but still, I mean, how long have you been married?
Vinny, I get it. You're miserable. You're trapped somewhere. I get it. You're like a Chilean miner. Just turn your fucking helmet on and, hey, remember the advice you just tough it out, dude. Just tough it out. A few more years, right? That's all. The biggest factor, now that I think about this, with the block party ending was management. Management coming in is where it all changed. Because now what was content for his show was portrayed as now a liability for your brand and your name, right? And once that was popped into his head, that was it.
How much did you actually net, you personally, from just that show at Harrah's ballpark?
I mean, the block party tour, I can tell you, was the most money I've made doing comedy.
Yeah, but stick to just one event, like the best event that I recall was, and I remember seeing Ronnie on I was at the Borgata, and I opened the window, and there's Ronnie on the side of the hotel. So that you must have played right next to Borgata. I remember seeing that in Atlantic City. So, but a show like that, like how much of that 1,200 people gate are you getting?
I'm trying to think of I don't have the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere between 8 and 10 grand.
8 and 10,000. Is
Yeah.
that net, or do you have to pay something out besides the people in the group?
No, that's what I walked away with after paying out Ronnie and JD, uh, Mad Dog, James Mattern. I think John Toll was with us, and also that show I got free rooms for a bunch of the staff that all came out, and then Jason and Will bitched on Back Office Radio that they didn't get paid to do their appearance, and I'm like,
No,
you
but-
got paid with a free fucking room.
Yeah, that's not compensation really. The 8 to 10 grand for you specifically, I didn't realize it was that high. So that's game changing for you, especially at that time or any time, really.
Absolutely. We moved so we were living in Flushing at the time, right? And the block party was becoming such a big part of the show that, I said, look, I told my wife, I said, we should move closer to the city. We should move closer to the city so that way I can get to work earlier and be more a part of the show, because I had to take a bus and 2 trains from Flushing to get to work. Also, at that time, I wasn't part of the on-air staff, let's say. I was still doing the news and stuff, and I was writing a little bit, but my hours were not what they eventually ended up being, was being there for the start of the show. So we went and found a place much smaller for $1,000 more a month, and moved to Astoria so I would be closer to work. And within 2 months of us moving to this more expensive place, the show was killed.
By the block party was killed, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's definitely precedent for this happening. John was a part of it too. There was a time when John even billed the show as Friends of Howard, which would not go over as well. But man, to take that's significant money away from you. Now, who was your equal partner at that time? Was it just Ronnie, or was it someone else?
Ronnie and JD had a flat rate that they made every weekend, and the reality of it, and they knew that I was doing most of the heavy lifting. There were other comics on the show, so
you don't have to explain it. I get it. You were running it. It was your operation, and you were paying them a flat rate. How much were you paying Ronnie at that time then?
I think Ronnie was getting $3,000 a weekend.
Right. And there came a time when Scott the engineer was mad about what he was making, but you make the point that every business owner has to make. When we make nothing, you still got paid that flat rate.
That's right.
So when the employer takes the risk, the employee is always getting paid no matter what. And the trouble happens when the employees believe that they should be getting a share of the profits. It just doesn't happen in your situation. It happens in a lot of businesses where employees think without any risk, I should have the rewards of taking the risk of starting a business.
Yeah, my thing was like, I can understand if you walked away from the weekend with $400 or $500 to voice your concern when everybody's coming home with thousands of dollars. You were coming home with thousands of dollars. Like, he just wanted more. Like, that was the thing. It was, he agreed to a flat rate, and then he wants to see the books. And it's like, there is no books for you to see. Your books is a flat rate. Sorry. That's what we agreed upon.
Other than Howard. And that's the truth. And Ronnie will tell you this. And I'm going to give you a little story here. I went and, in stuttering John fashion, I found out where they were staying when the Stern Show came out here. So I went there, of course, equipped with a microphone and a camera to interview all these assholes.
And cargo shorts.
The first guy that we got was Shuli. And the only guy we got. And I started asking Shuli all these questions. Shuli, is it weird that John Hine is working on the show and he created Jump the Shark and your show did too? I'm asking, and Shuli's a little freaking...
You got to pause it 1 second, because this is mind-boggling to me that this joke that he remembers word for word, right? He asked me a bunch of questions. That's the only thing that came out of his mouth. Not to mention, it was a tweet that he put out days before, or even that same day, trying to like goof on the show. And that's what he came in prepared with, a tweet from 48 hours. That's what he hit me with. And believe me, Vince, you know me. You know I am not one to shy away from a good fucking throwdown, right? A verbal confrontation I am not afraid of. It took so much for me not to get into it with them. I wanted to so bad, but I knew management would probably get pissed at me because it wasn't going to be done in a friendly kind of ha-ha way. Like, I was going to end it. I was going to be like, don't run up on me in your looking like a fucking homeless, vet in your cargo shorts and flip-flops. And, and it was just like, it was so sad to see how far this guy has fallen. He's sitting here chasing me down in a hotel lobby. Who the fuck am I?
I told you in the past, I didn't agree with your response. I didn't like your response.
Yeah, I know you don't like me. I know.
Yeah, and I also don't like physically fighting in that situation, unless your life is on the line or you're defending your family.
I wasn't going to physically fight.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, what's going to happen? So what are you two going to do, right? So either you have to confront him verbally, which is not going to benefit you. I get that. Right. I just didn't like the look of it, and I didn't like the lack of fight back.
I knew what I wanted to say. I had it in my head. It was.
Well, what were you going to say? Let's hear.
I don't want to say it because it was a jugular thing. It was definitely going to lead to violence.
Were you going to go after his kid?
Listen, all I was going to say is just give him a little critique on his life and what he should work on. And look,
what though? I want to hear it. Like, you don't have to be specific, but what does John need to work on? If you're advising him,
maybe paying less attention to the past and more attention to the present and the people around you that you should probably pay a little bit more attention to. That's the nicest way I could have put it. Because, look, I'm a comic. Like, if you say some shit to me from the crowd, in a matter of seconds, I will find something to upset you. And so this is what I do. And so for someone that I know, for a backstory I know so much about, you think it's going to be hard for me to tweak him? Like, in a second. But again, who does that benefit, right? I'm playing into what he needs, and it just doesn't benefit. It's a lose-lose for me.
Wuss. And then he runs over to the to the freaking concierge. Call security. Fucking Shuli, little fucking wuss bag.
Yeah, I remember Shuli. I remember him. He
Hey, Paulie remembers you.
Easy, Tommy. Watch your fucking mouth.
He was funny. Now, when did he pop on? When did Shuli pop on?
We gotta get Tommy on.
Shuli.
When did I don't know, but anyway.
He was not happy that Tommy was a fan. Oh no! Shout out Tommy, love you, brother.
This is why I love John, because he's so sensitive that he can't deal with the fact that he just said he liked you. So now he's got look at that face too. He's pissed.
So anyway, so what happened is then I see Ronnie, and after Shuli tried to get us thrown out, security comes over. Hey, we hear you. I go, I'm not doing anything. I asked a question. Now I'm having a beer. What's the problem? And they go, all right, because really I didn't do anything. Shuli's just a pussy.
No,
Shuli's just a pussy.
I just ran over to security for no reason.
Come back, and you're a stand-up guy. And I know you're a stand-up guy because you didn't leave Howard without talking to him.
I did not.
You know what, John? I respect you for that. And you know what? That's a real man.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in my heart it didn't matter at that moment if Jay would have offered you $50 million. If you didn't get that conversation with Howard, you wouldn't have done it. And to me,
good
I don't give a fuck if you're stuttering John. whoever the fuck you are. That
Right.
alone, my opinion of you is a stand-up guy, a respectable guy, and a good guy.
Shuli's just a pussy.
Hey, how'd that get in there?
Yes? Are you...
All right, now that Disney mom fan,
Yeah.
she's more a fan of you than me. She sent me this. She said it's crude, meaning she doesn't know how to do animation, but she wanted to make sure I play this for you, so I'm just going to play it for you. I don't know if you're a fan of The Simpsons at all.
I am.
All right, but just for those who don't know this scene, Homer leaves a good job for his dream job of working at the bowling alley. You know, like leaving a really good established job to do virtually, you know, something that, because it's not fun anymore, he wants to go work at a bowling alley. But then he realized he made the biggest mistake of his life, and he has to come back to the multinational corporation to ask for his job back.
Yes? Are you a new applicant?
Actually, I quit and I came to get my job back.
Through there.
So, come crawling back, eh?
Seems like the classy thing to do would be not to call attention to it. Thanks for giving me my old job back.
I'm afraid it's not that simple. As punishment for your desertion, it's company policy to give you the plague.
Sir, that's the plaque.
Ah, yes, the special demotivational plaque to break what's left of your spirit. Because you see, you're here forever. Don't forget, you're here forever.
So the big question then remains,
Is she a professional animator? I'm going to say yes. Oh, that's what wasn't the big question? Go ahead.
no. Would you go back to the show if you were offered it today?
If they reached out and said, we want you part-time or full-time, if I'm able to continue doing what I do on the side, I mean, that would be a talking point, I guess. But I don't know. We'd have to cross that bridge if we get there. I mean, again, like everything I said at the beginning, you know, things aren't going to go backwards. They're only going to move forward. And I feel like I had the best times of my life there. I loved it there. Loved the people there. Time to move on, you know. But
Yeah.
if they need somebody to do some voices, you know, I'm available. They
Yeah,
can
well,
pay me.
Tommy and Paulie and John basically came up with the idea that at least for the last year, they bring in Artie, Jackie, John, even if it's just one day a week with each of those, just to come back and do the show, or all together just have a reunion show, but for the whole year, bringing everybody back. And obviously,
Listen, I'd like to see Tiger Voltron fight Car Voltron, but it's not going to happen, all right? And I know they're lions or whatever the fuck they are, but you get my point. Like, it's just we're just playing fantasy land here. They're never
Right.
coming back. It's not going to happen. It's just not. That's all.
when the show does end, and if this is the last run of the contract, I do believe that there is lagging demand from enough fans that they would want some form of the show. If it was you and Artie, if that could happen, you and John, if that could happen, full time, and no more 3 days a week, but something full time, I think that would add more value than just a random show that they're going to replace it with.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a big void to fill. No one's ever going to truly fill it, and if it's not going to be better, or I wouldn't even say as good. It's got to be better. Like who? Because then we're just a cover band, right? We're just doing fucking cover tunes all day long. You know, I don't think you can't duplicate certain shit, man. LeBron is the next Michael, but there's never been another Michael. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just certain shit is the greatest, and it's gonna remain the greatest. And I would love to work with all those guys again. I love the thing I miss the most over there is my friends. You know, doing this silly shit and laughing and coming up with crazy ideas. Loved it. Love it. So I would do it in a heartbeat. I think so many people are holding on to something that just doesn't exist anymore. It's just tough to move on. I get it.
Well, with that, we're going to leave us with the fact that there's a chance that Shuli could be back on the show if the terms are there. Or
Howard doesn't want anybody making money.
Well, you're a stand-up guy in my book, buddy. And next time, we'll go over some different things. We do have some cool announcements coming up that we're working on, which I think
I
are going to
want
be more.
Tommy on this show, by the way. Get on that, please.
I don't know if I can get Tommy, or you can get Tommy, or he's probably a big get. But I will say Tommy did a great job. I did listen to both episodes of it, and I think John did really well too. In seriousness, John, he stayed away from politics the best he can. There's a great time when Tommy tells John that Joe Biden's not going to make it the 4 years, and that Joe Biden's dumb and had brain surgery. And
that's great.
Oh, John! As you can see, John body reaction is furious. So this is a pitch for Tommy's show. Go ahead and go over and watch it, and then start watching our shows. We're going to be doing this on a regular basis now. We got something really exciting coming, you and I, going forward. So we'll see how that works out. All right, bud. Till the next show.
See you, pal.
All right.